A very good morning and welcome to A Farmer's Media. My name is Boss Queen and this is Mid Morning Show. And today I'm going to discuss about a very interesting topic that revolves around farming. Are you a new farmer? Do you feel like you wanna get into farming, venture into farming? Then this is the right platform for you. And following on what's trending, what's going on, make sure you follow us on A Farmers Media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, A Farmers Media. Remember, this is where we connect, learn, and grow. And of course, follow me at Bosquin_KE on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on all social media platforms. It's Bosquin_KE, and of course on Facebook, it's BosquinKE. All right, and about now we're going to get into our topic, but before that, I have some trending news. Yesterday, Agriculture and Livestock CS Mythically Tour acknowledged that he assured Kenyans that there's in the coming months we'll be having a drop in the price of unga. I mean flour. What do you think about it? Do you think it's because Kenyans have been complaining about the rise of price of unga and all that? Do you think it's going to drop or it's going to peak, like it's going to rise again? And he's claiming that is positive about dropping of the prices because the government this year subsidized the prices of fertilizer, so he's hoping there'll be like a lot of production in terms of crops. So thinking that we'll have high yields production in terms of maize and we'll be having enough food. Let's hope so. That's what is going to happen. So today we are going to venture into crop production. Make sure you join us in this conversation. Don't miss it. And follow it on our YouTube channel at A Farmers Media. And we are live on our Facebook page also. Make sure you keep on following us and watching. And of course, drop your comment. Let's know where you're watching from or following from. And in case you have any questions for today, drop it there in the comment section. I'm going to answer it immediately. About crop production. Now, these are some of the basic things we are going to talk about today. Basically, we're going to the farm basics. We need to start from somewhere. Like, why? Yeah, why do you start? Why do you like? Why will you start to own a farm? What are some of the reasons that will make you to start your own farm? And then what are the some of the procedures you can go through to select a place for farming, like the piece of farm? And the other one is choosing the type of crop you want to plant. And then I'm going to take you through the finding the right seeds or seedlings for the crop you want to plant. And of course, planning your farm, how it's supposed to be. Are you supposed to raise it somewhere so that to get quality sunlight? Are you going to the layout of the farm? We're going to talk about it. So make sure you don't touch that dial. You're always tuned there. We're also going to talk about the raised seed beds, like in terms of planning your farm. Are you going the layout, raised seed beds, traditional rows? Is that what you're going to use? Are we going to use square foot gardening? I'm going to tell you about what square foot gardening is. Of course, we have other ways of water conservation. Are we going to talk about are we going to mulch or are we going to use drip irrigation? And of course, we're going to talk about time, the time you're supposed to plant. It's a very key. This is where most farmers fail. So taking on this, I know farming pays. It literally pays. You earn from farming. How much do you buy your let's say for example sukuma wiki. That's a bunch. Like 5 leaves, you get it for 10 bob. But if you get a plot, and you start irrigating it and taking all these steps I'm going to take you through, you're not going to be the one buying, but you're rather going to be the seller. And how much are you going to get it for one? Let's say one plant of sukuma wiki, just that one crop, like the only, like the root itself, it gives close to how many leaves? Estimated to 12, 12 to 15 before it stops. Now 12 to 15 in one season, then 12 to 15 another season, and it takes about 3 to 4 seasons for you to maybe get rid of them from the farm. How much will you have earned from just one stem? You can imagine that. And also we're going to talk about ways to improve the soil testing. Soil testing is also included. Clearing the weeds also. What are we going to use? Are you going organic way or inorganic way? You're going to use the compost manure, or are we going to use fertilizer? We're going to talk about all this. And also planting, you know there are different types of planting, like methods of planting. We're also going to discuss them on this show. And also ways of maintaining the garden, very important. Everything needs maintenance. Even if you're there, you need maintenance. You need to eat, you need to dress, you need to treat yourself, maybe take out yourself on a date, or everything needs maintenance. And the same way, the farm, or rather the crops, need maintenance. So everything has to be taken care of. So we're also going to tell you about the maintenance of farm, or rather crops, the same way you do maintenance for yourself. And also going to talk about pest and disease control, and of course harvesting. That's where we close. And the marketing, how you're going to market your goods, the market demand, how you're going to start them out. Those are some of the things that will be included in this show. And remember, in this show, we are proudly sponsored by Sprout. And Sprout is a online platform, or rather a website, whereby farmers are given a chance to create content that is associated to agriculture. That's where you post your content, or rather you can view other content, people, agricultural farmers contents there from there, and then you get to learn, and explore other ways, and of course ask questions, and you'll be answered. Now, right in about now, we are going to venture on our today's topic. I just gave a breakdown on how it's supposed to be, to like what to expect. Now you're going to narrow it down slow by slow, so that you get to understand. You're out there, maybe you're trying to think of what you want to do in terms of economic activity, and you're like stranded. You're trying out business, you're seeing it's not working. Why don't you take that money and invest in a plot somewhere, and let's start farming? As I said earlier, farming pays. It literally pays you. So this is the right step for you to take. Now, what do you think? What has ever, like, what experience have you ever gone through that you feel like you need you need to do farming or be a farmer? For me, I'll say I have a story. There's this time I was somewhere, and then we were going to buy fruits. They were like grocery. Let me just call it grocery in general. And we got to the place. The particular thing we were looking for, my friend, let me tell you, we were sold like one carrot, just one. And it wasn't like, it was almost similar to this pen, but a bit um a bit big, but it wasn't that big. Just one at 57 shillings, and I was like, really? Like, just this. I even asked the vendor, like, you serious? You're selling at this carrot at 57 shillings, only one, of which it's not even enough for the food we're going to cook. Now I was like, okay, Why, if you're selling that one at 57 and we need like maybe 10 to 15, what do you think this vendor is making? How much is he making from this? And I called him aside and I was like, dude, are you the one doing this? Like, are you the one farming, or you're buying it from someone somewhere? Someone is supplying you from the farm. And he said, I started my own farm at my place, and because carrot here in this particular place we lack carrots, it's rare, like you rarely get it. So that's why I took that chance and I started it, and I've been selling it at this price and I've been getting this profit. Now you can see he's sacrificed and he's earning a lot from it. Now, what is your experience? From there I got opened up and I was like, okay, so you found out that this particular thing is not found here and it's in demand. Who doesn't like carrot? I know everybody does, because you can eat them raw and still cooked and they're still very sweet. So this guy took that chance, and I also felt the same. Now I came home and I was like, what can I do? Also, I tried to check what's missing. I established that most people, like where I come from, there is shortage of beetroot, the beetroot fruit, and I was like, how? Where can I plant? How can I find it? And if we bring it to the market, how is it going? And I'll just be like, let me just start with a very small piece of land, like very, 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 very small, like let's say a garden, kitchen garden. And I started there. I did my own things, like I plowed the land, dig seeds, a nursery. After that, I transferred them to the seed bed. After some time, they were like, they had grown, they had matured, and I just realized, let me take them to the. I did research of about the marketing structure, and I was like, let me see how much you can sell it. The price I was selling it per kg, I literally got a lot of customers, like, yeah, it's here. And then I was educating them on the importance of the health factors of beetroot, and they were like, yeah, we need it. Some of them blend it for juice purpose. I even saw someone using beetroot to cook chapati. You can imagine, like, it's very interesting. That chapati looks color, it's, I don't know if it's purple, like, do you call it purple, maroon, or red? I don't know. It lays between purple and maroon there. Very, very sweet. I think you should try that recipe. I'll come up with that. We cook, we'll have it. I think maybe we should introduce a kitchen section whereby we cook with us. Whatever we plant, we take it, transform it to something else. So we cook, and I'll come up, we cook for you. I'll give you the recipe for cooking chapati using beetroot. It's very sweet. I think you should try it. Now, today, why the question you're asking yourself, why do you think you should start your own farm? I've already given you my experience, and you can see most people depend on other people, like, be like, I can't farm. I can't go to the farm, to get dirty. Most people take farming as a dirty job, like dirty, like in terms of soil. You get soil, but this is the most exciting job you'll ever do, instead of sitting in the office the whole day. In the farm, it's very interesting. You dig, sometimes you take a rest, look at the environment. It is, very cool, fresh air, no pressure. It's one of the best. And there are many, and while planting or while trying to venture into farming, there are some of the factors you need to consider. First of all, your location. It really matters. Establish your location, know where you are, know what is missing, like what can you plant, what is needed. Once you establish that, you come up with a plan of where are you going to grow it. Once you know where you're going to grow it, you take the land and plow it. The first thing you do before doing anything, before maybe planting or engaging in any other activity, first of all, you need to test your soil. Test your soil. This is very important. Make sure you test your soil at every cost. Like, test it. Once you test it, you'll know what the soil lacks and what it has. What does it fit to grow a certain crop, or maybe vegetable or fruit? Once you know what the particular crop is supposed to be there, then you can it can give you a go ahead. And then what if you find this soil has maybe a low pH, a high pH, or rather the lack of some nutrients, and how are you going to fix it? For instance, if you get a piece of land whereby you want to plant and you do your soil testing, you find the pH is yes, it's neutral, but it's lacking nitrogen. The soil lacks nitrogen, and then the plant you want to plant needs nitrogen. This is what you do. You plant a nitrogenous giving plant, and that is beans, or rather legumes. Any plant that falls under legume or leguminous plant, it's a nitrogen fixing agent. So, like, plant your beans and they'll fix nitrogen to the soil, and it will give you a go ahead to plant the next crop you wanted to plant. So that is one thing you do after you pick your garden. The second thing you need to do, once you're starting, you're a starter, this is your first time to farm, you don't have to go for the big piece of land. You have to start small. Our first number one key is start small. You know, when you start small, this one gives you motivation. You don't have to worry like, oh, I'm waking up, I'm going to, the shamba, and this is so big, like, I don't know if I'm going to manage. Just start small. Pick a piece of land, divide it and into a section, and be like, this time round, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, let's say you pick what length are you going to use? Just pick any, the one you're suitable. Divide it into 4. Use the first quarter, dig it, do the test. Once you establish, you dig, then you do the test. After you do the test, now let's use this quarter first. Let's establish our crop in this quarter. Once it starts doing well, you go to the other quarter, to the other, to the other. By the time you're done with the last quarter, the first quarter is ready for harvesting. The second quarter will be ready. The third, the same. And that's how it gives you motivation. Now, once we said our number one rule, as I said earlier, is start small. Like, just establish a very small piece of land and you start there. Number 2, this is a very factor that most people assume, but it's very important. The amount of sunlight. How lit is your piece of land? If you want to have enough maximum products from your farm, you need to make sure your land or the piece you've chosen is somewhere where there's enough sunlight. A crop needs at least 6 to 8 hours each day to get sunlight for the sake of other their processes they need to undergo. If they get less, remember you'll get low yields. If it gets moderate, still, but it needs at least 6 to 8 hours, between 6 and 8 hours of sunlight. That one is good for your crop. So make sure where you're going to establish a piece of land, there is enough sunshine, like the sunlight will be there. That's number one. Number two to consider. Number three, type of soil. Of course, you need to have good soil. When I say good soil, I mean the soil that has enough nutrients for your crops. Enough nutrients is whereby even if you're going to lack, let's say, fertilizer or anything or other additives, you're assured that your crop is going to do well. And this soil should be able to, your crop you're going to plant should be able to penetrate deep into it to absorb nutrients. So it doesn't have to be rocky, some pieces of stones that cannot break to release nutrients. And also the soil should be having ability to retain water, like ability to retain water. This means it's going to save a lot. Whenever there's no rain or you haven't watered them, the crops are not going to wilt. And when they wilt, you're going to get a loss. Number three, availability of water or water source. How far or how close is your water point? Okay, this helps you because when it comes to when there's drought, or rather the place you're going to establish is a dry area. So this means your land has to be close to a water body to ease when it comes to irrigation. It has to ease, like give you, like making work easier. You don't have to go for distance for you to get water. That one also saves you time. So it has to be near a water body for the sake of even pumping the water itself. It makes it easier. The other one, you have to, when you establish the place you want to plant, you also have to establish the type of crop you want to plant. For instance, are you planning to plant, let's say, is it a fruit? Let's say, for instance, watermelon. Is it a vegetable? For instance, cabbage, carrots. Is it beetroot? Is it kales? Or what are you planning to plant? So you should choose the type of plant according to the location. There are some places where watermelon does best. There are places where cabbage does best. Where cabbage does best, watermelon doesn't do well. Where watermelon do well, cabbage don't do well. Now you need to establish that. And also the type of spacing to your crops. You need to space your crops. You need to give them space, at least a certain space whereby they'll have maximum utilization of nutrients within that particular space, so that they don't need to compete for nutrients, such that each stem has to be healthy as possible. So your spacing also matters. For example, in planting maize, you give the space of 90 centimeter apart and 30 centimeter 90 centimeter across and 30 centimeter apart in each seed. So when planting, for instance, vegetable, you still have to do the same. And also any other thing, spacing is very important. And also spacing helps you to, when you're doing when carrying out farm activities like weeding, watering, you avoid cutting them by mistake, accidentally, or breaking them. You might be walking and when they are congested, you don't get a space for you to pass, and you might hit, and if they are not strong enough, they break. So spacing helps them to look more appealing. At the same time, they get enough nutrients. They don't have to compete, as I said earlier. And also weed control, where they are well spaced, the possibility of weed growing is rare. It's minimal. And also when carrying out weeding, you don't it's going to be easier for you because you'll be putting soil where it's appropriate. And then for beginners, you need to choose a crop that doesn't take a long time to mature. You need to choose a crop that is easy to grow and takes less time for it to be matured. For instance, you can start like with a cabbage, tomatoes, but tomatoes are a bit complicated. I'll prefer you start with cabbages because I've grown cabbages, and I can tell you cabbage is the best to grow because they don't require a lot. What they require a lot is water. You just need to water them and make sure you give them enough nutrients in terms of fertilizer. Either way, we are coming there, and I'm going to explain you on other types of applications of fertilizer and how they're being applied. Our next thing is when planning for your farm, at least know what's grown in that region. Have an idea of what is grown in that region, so that whenever you're going to plant there, it's not going to cost you like for instance, I heard someone saying that butternuts in Turkana County, I don't know if it's in Turkana, or I'm not sure, but those eastern or northeastern places, people from that region don't eat butternuts. So you going to plant butternuts in that place, it will be a total wastage of time because you don't have a market there. And it's another journey transporting them from that region to another, point A to point B, for the sake of market. So whatever you're going to plant their market should be readily available within that region, so that even if you're going to take some of them outside, it's going to be easier. Like most is going to be consumed within the region and less is going out. So it won't give you much loss, and rather it will give you much profit. And then the other one, there's this thing called weed shelter. Make sure you have windbreakers, and the types of windbreakers you should maybe plant should be trees. If you have trees around your farm, that is one type of a windbreaker. And then the other one is napier grass. Actually, it's one of the best when it comes to farming. When you plant napier grass across your farm or all around your farm, and you plant a certain crop, let's say for instance maize, it's going to act as a cover or a shelter, a wind shelter for this maize. So when the maize are heavily loaded, they're about to mature, whenever wind comes, they don't break. They'll be still standing still, and therefore will reduce the cost, maybe the, how do you call it, the loss. When maize breaks and it's not yet mature, that's a loss. So windbreaks help them to stand still until they're mature for you to get enough products, or let's say enough yields. And there's this time, I don't remember very well, but I don't remember the year, but we planted maize back at home, and that year, the wind, the maize were about to mature. They'd carried them babies, let me call them babies, and This is what happened. The wind came out of nowhere, and most of them were swayed away, and majority the stems weren't that strong because the babies were too heavy, and they were broken. And you know how much loss we went through. So wind breaks or wind shelters are very important. We are coming back in a few, and I'm going to you know we're going to talk about companion planting, and the farm layout, the seedlings. See you in the next. We're taking a short commercial break. We'll be back in a few. Make sure you stay tuned at the Farmers Media. My name is Boss Queen, and this is Mid Morning Breakfast Show.
The heart of any shamba lies in its soil. Because soil is so precious, it needs to be managed really carefully. A good place to start is with a soil test. This will tell you how healthy your soil is, its pH levels, what type of soil it is, which crops you can grow in your soil, and advice on which fertilizer is best to use. If you follow the soil test recommendations, it can boost your yields. So, how do you take a soil test sample? Firstly, dig up soil samples. Use a soil auger or panga to take a sample 1 feet deep in a zigzag pattern across your shamba. You will need at least 10 samples. Mix all the different samples together in a bucket. The soil is now ready to be scanned and tested. You can find out about how to get your soil tested by contacting your extension officer. Alternatively, contact a Ministry of Agriculture research station near you. A soil test costs about as much as 1 bag of maize. You should do a soil test at least every 3 to 5 years.
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late, or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of this can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes. Conservation agriculture is a way of farming that keeps nutrients and moisture in your soil. It's also a good way of controlling pests and diseases. The 3 main principles are minimum tillage, mulching, and crop rotation. With minimum tillage, you only disturb the soil where you will be planting. You can do this with a reaper or using a djembe. The second principle is called mulching. This means that you cover your soil with leftover residues such as leaves or maize stovers. This protects your soil from the hot sun while holding moisture in the ground. The mulch material will break down and add nutrients to your soil. Crop rotation is the third principle. You shouldn't plant the same crop on the same piece of land year after year. Instead, rotate between different crop families each season. If you follow these simple principles, you can be certain of healthier soil and higher yields in the long run.
All right, welcome back. My name is Boss Queen, and this is mid morning show. And of course, this is a Farmers Media where we learn, we connect, learn, and grow. Remember to follow our social media handles at Farmers Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, follow and of course like our also rather subscribe to our YouTube channel at Farmers Media, where we stream live every day, and of course also on our Facebook page daily. You subscribe, like, and even share so that you never miss either of our content. And also remember to follow me at bossqueen_ke on all social media platforms. Let's interact. Let's know. Young farmers, you need to consult maybe, or you need to know something about farming. Do you have any interest in farming? Would you like to be a farmer one day? Do you want to invest in farming? What is the right channel for you to go? Maybe that's what you're asking yourself. A Farmers Media got you covered. This is where we give you everything, like every information about farming. And also Sprout in association, a Farmers Media in association to Sprout, Sprout gives you a platform as a young farmers where you can get to their website at a Sprout website, where you can learn many things, content posted by farmers. And remember, there is no biasness in Sprout. They give exclusive content and also give you a platform as a young farmers to explore in farming. Let's continue from where we left. I was talking about companion planting. And someone might be asking, companion. Yes, companion planting. The companion you're thinking, what does it mean by companion? Something that goes hand in hand with the other one. How are you going to combine them? So, for instance, companion farming, planting, involves planting two different crops in the same, let's say, line. This helps in pests and disease control. Pests mostly. Let's say, for instance, let me use the best combo of companion planting for you to understand. For instance, you're planting tomatoes, and you're thinking of the next partner or companion to plant with. Onions does well with tomatoes. You know why? There's a pest that attacks onions but doesn't attack tomatoes. So when it comes, that pest, for instance, comes, it will first land on the onions and be like, no, this is not the right place I'm supposed to be. So when they find out it's onion, not tomatoes, so they fly away. So this one, the onion here, is preventing the tomato from being attacked. Now that is the advantage of companion planting, which you should try it out. It's just a natural and just organic method of controlling pests. Of course, we're going to discuss about pest and disease control, but this one helps you. I'm trying to train you on how to control them without using chemicals. So, companion planting is a solution for you. And now, we're going to seeds and finding a seed. You are a young farmer or a new farmer thinking of maybe what are these seeds? Like, what is the right variety of seeds to plant? Does this seeds does well where my farm is suited? how long is it going to take for them to mature or give me yields? Maybe those are some of the questions you ask yourself. But let me tell you, the best thing you can ever do, the best advice, read labels on any seed you buy. Make sure that sachet that you have, make sure you read the label. If you don't understand, the next thing you need to do, the immediate thing, ask an extension officer. An extension officer, asking or consulting an extension officer is going to give you deep details about what you need. For instance, he will tell you the right variety of seed you're supposed to grow in a particular location. He's also going to tell you the time you're supposed to plant that particular seed and how long it's going to take for it to mature. And he's also going to advise you, this particular variety does best in this region and this one does best in the other region. So it's going to give you choices of where to you're supposed to plant. Is it there for you to choose? What do you want? Do you want a crop that is going to take you 2 months for it to mature? 3 months, 7 months? Where does it do best? How the yields you're going to get out of that crop in that particular location or that particular variety you've chosen? It's going to give you a lot of information that will help you. So what I advise young farmers who are growing or who are getting into the industry, what you need to do is first consult an extension officer. They're readily available. They are always everywhere. Just visit their offices or maybe their websites. Talk to them. Be like, my name is Boss Queen. I want to be a farmer. And I'm thinking of growing carrots and Kajiado, let's say Kitengela. And I have this size piece of land. There's enough water, and what are some, or maybe what will you advise me to grow on this piece of land? It's going to give you a lot of information that you need. And also, maybe I was planning to grow carrots and it tells me, I think carrots is not best suited here. What you can grow and does best, maybe it's green crops. So this one, or it gives you an alternative and be like, for you to grow carrots in this region, you need a greenhouse. And that's why you're going to open up and be like, if you construct a greenhouse here, this is what you're going to do. It's going to give you these particular yields and, you'll get sorted. So I'll advise you, despite me giving you how you're going to do about when you want to venture into farming, he's also going to give you into details, deep details. Some of maybe I won't give you in this video, but you learn from them. First of all, you read the label, understand. Also, do your research, do your background research, and know what crop fits a certain ecological conditions. And remember, right now we are having right now we are going through climate change, and our weathers are really, really shifting. We don't know what to expect next. Like the World Meteorological Organization, has just done a research and revealed that we'll be expecting El Nino in between September and October. You know what that means. And they stated
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late, or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of these can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes. The heart of any shamba lies in its soil. Because soil is so precious, it needs to be managed really carefully. A good place to start is with a soil test. This will tell you how healthy your soil is, its pH levels, what type of soil it is, which crops you can grow in your soil, and advice on which fertilizer is best to use. If you follow the soil test recommendations, it can boost your yields. So, how do you take a soil test sample? Firstly, dig up soil samples. Use a soil auger or panga to take a sample 1 feet deep in a zigzag pattern across your shamba. You will need at least 10 samples. Mix all the different samples together in a bucket. The soil is now ready to be scanned and tested. You can find out about how to get your soil tested by contacting your extension officer. Alternatively, contact a Ministry of Agriculture research station near you. A soil test costs about as much as 1 bag of maize. You should do a soil test at least every 3 to 5 years.
For the technical issues, it seems my producer ameamua kutupeleka lunch mapema. Anyways, welcome back. I was explaining about the recent research that has been released by World Meteorological Organization, whereby they're saying that we'll be having El Nino. El Nino, for those who doesn't understand El Nino, it's the rains, the heavy rains that comes with massive destruction. So there'll be El Nino from estimated between September and October. And as I was saying, we are going through the climate change, and this season, not like most people are not aware of what to expect. The ocean currents, and most people, they're trying to cope up with the climate change. And that's why during this change, we are advising farmers to adapt the climate smart agriculture, or rather the CSA. What CSA does, we are trying to reduce the effects of the climate change. It's been as we discussed earlier on our videos, if you can go back and check them, we had this topic on climate change and how climate smart comes in here. And it will really give you very detailed information, and you'll get to learn on some of the things, the do's and don'ts, and when it comes to practicing of climate smart agriculture. So I think you should follow. If you want to know more about this, there's a previous video we did about it, and we had an interview with an expert. You should go and check it out. So the weather, like the way it's changing, like right now it's pretty cold, pretty cold, almost the whole of Nairobi. I don't know, I'm not even sure, but where I am, it's cold. We have like almost the whole of this week, since the week started, it's just been cold, you know. And this is how we're trying to adapt the new weather changes or the new climate change. And what I will urge those people, according to the report that has been given from the weather department, at least take note, take caution. People from the eastern coastal, take note of these El Nino rains that are said to expected. At least let's take note so that we have less distraction and less impact to both livestock, crops, and human beings. At least let's take note on that. Anyway, remember to follow our social medias at Farmers Media. Remember, this is where you connect, learn, and grow. And as we continue, we had finished with the seedlings and seeds, and now we are going to talk about the farm setup. How are you going to plan a farm? For instance, as a young farmer, this is where you make mistake and you fall for victim to neglect some of the things, like for example, wind, waterlogging, pests, etc. Like this is where you neglect them, and this is what really affects you people. Like you need to take note of this. For your farm, for better farming experience, you need to at least prevent your farm from disasters. Take some time to plan your farm, to avoid things like pests, like floods, as I mentioned. So your layout really matters. Like it really matters. No matter what you're going to do, are you going to raise your farm because we have the raised bed? Are you going to plant the traditional rows? How are you going to do it? Now, this is where the location where your land is. That's where it's going to determine your layout, farm layout. For instance, if you're planning to plant cabbages, I'll urge you to use you raise your farm, like raise your land. You take a lot of soil and then raise it, create something like a bed, raised, not a nursery. Remember, this is not a nursery. This is a seedling bed. You raise it high. When raising it out, like if you raise it, you conserve a lot of water, and also the crop will get more exposed will get enough sunlight. So if you raise your bed, what it gets. So, and also if you are in an area where we have constant flooding, for sometimes you don't know, the rain just comes out of nowhere and you get flooding, we recommend you to raise your bed. No, like once you raise your bed like this, your bed is here and the other soil is here. When water comes, remember, this crop that is planted here is not going to be affected. The water will have the ridge on this side and then this side, and this one will remain where it is, and you're not going to experience any loss. And the other method is traditional rows, whereby you just make your rows like I don't know how you like it, depending on how your farm looks like. If it's you want to do it across or along, depends on you, but how you like it. And the planting your vegetables along the rows, it increases the space between plants and improve airflow around them, and also give them more space to grow. For instance, I'll just use cabbage today. Allow me to use cabbage because I told you I have experience in growing cabbage. Cabbage needs space. You can't predict now this cabbage I'm going to plant it here and here. You can't determine how much it's going to build itself. Cabbage grow while getting, I don't know. I know you understand, like round. So it needs space to expand every now and then. Every day it continues to expand until it reaches its final stage. So cabbage needs space. So the more you space it, the more you give it space for it to grow. There'll be air aeration, circulation, and also maximum nutrients will be provided. I told you earlier, if you plant it if you don't space it, if it's not well spaced, one of them, you'll find that the crop you've planted here, this stem for instance, and this stem, one will be healthier, the other one will be weak because they're competing for nutrients. So if you properly space them, each one will be healthier. So I recommend you to do proper spacing, and traditional rows allow you to do that. The other one is square foot gardening. This one I recommend for beginners to use square foot gardening. I don't know how you're going to interpret it. It's the same as raised garden, but this one you choose a square, like your crop. Let me just demonstrate it using this pen. Your crop is right here. You square, like the square, you give it a square shape here, and then you go to another one, there's another square, the other one. That is how we square foot. Like each one has their own how will I say it, like let's use it as square. And the other one, and also square foot plots, you can use it to as square foot plots, whereby I told you take a particular plot of land, divide it into four. You use this square, this square, this square, the other square. That's how you divide it. And when it comes to the other one, whereby it's very, very important, and I'll really recommend most farmers to do, is mulching. Mulching has a lot of importance, a lot of advantage to the farmer. But when you do it right, and when you use the right products when doing mulching. Remember, in our last video we discussed about mulching a bit. We mentioned a bit of mulching, whereby we have some plastic mulch, and the other one is we use grass. Not only just grass or leaves, but dried grass and leaves. Those are when you use the ones which are not yet dried, they'll rot, and some of them can cause microorganisms that are harmful to your crop, or others might hinder with your crop growing by bringing in pests, or what do you call them, there's the ants that will eat up the roots, and therefore will go a loss. So mulching, it prevents it gives soil enough time for, like, gives soil space for soil aeration, like the soil becomes well aerated. And the other one, the mulch makes the soil stay cooler, like the soil is always cool and moist, and that's what the plant needs. And the other one, it prevents the root from heating. Sometimes there is that. Okay, plants need sun, yes, but sometimes the sun is too much for the roots. So when the roots are being hit by the sun, they become weak, and that's how wilting starts. Wilting doesn't start on the leaf, it starts by the roots. When the roots are not in a position to absorb water, that's when the crop wilts. And when it's dried, definitely it's being dried by the sun. So we prevent that by applying mulch to your crop. On the other hand, it creates a dark space for environmental, like we call them giants, for instance snails and these burrowing organisms, and the burrowing organism which help the soil in soil aeration, and also when these snails or soil burrowers dig into the soil, they bring up the nutrients. The nutrients that are deep, they bring it up so that the crop is in a position to absorb the nutrients, and therefore we're going to get it to give it a healthy condition. And now, when you apply the mulch, remember to use the correct type of mulch. As I said, make sure if you're going to use leaves or grass, make sure they are dried. And mulch also help in conserving water. Once you water your crops and then you apply mulch, be assured that you can stay up to 3 or 4 days without giving them water, because that one cuts the cost of you watering daily. So it really helps. You should try that. I remember I gave an experience whereby I ever tried mulching, but I did it wrongly, of which I ended up destroying the crops, because most of them were eaten up out by the ants, and that's how I went. That's how I lost some of the crops, and very few survived. So when doing mulching, make sure you apply this correct products. We call it no, the correct you know which one will I use? Yeah, let's use products. So we have the plastic mulch, we have the dry grass, we have that's what you're using. So sorry, make sure you're using the correct one so that it increases your yields. Now we're moving up to timing. Time, timing. Timing or when to plant. This is very critical. For instance, you need to establish the time you need to plant for the sake of ecological weather conditions and the changes. As you've said, we are dealing with a lot, like right now is going on because of the change in climate. So timing of planting season is also critical, because you're always advised to plant the onset of rains, so that your seeds, when they're germinating, for instance maize, they get enough water for germination and as they grow up. So if you plant maybe after, the seed will get little moist, and therefore it will reach a certain stage and wilt, and that's how it's going to die. So I'll advise you establish the correct time for planting. When you're considering to plant, you go back to the question, what are you planting? What are you planting? For instance, when you read those seed instructions from the pack, you're always told the right time to plant. So make sure you choose the seeds that match with your region, so that when the time to plant reaches, you are in the right position to plant them, so that to avoid getting a loss. So location, type of seed, and time for planting are very critical. Moving on. If you want to maybe consider growing plants like what do I say? Maybe someone is considering to grow broccoli. I know you know broccoli, what it is, or maybe cabbage. Let's say the time for planting, you can start maybe by, if you want to plant the two of them at once, you should start with Chinese. Let's use Chinese cabbage because I know it does well. Start with Chinese cabbage, then plant broccoli. Then you'll see the best results. They usually go hand in hand, and their time how they have the demand in market also. That is another factor to consider, because we are also doing this as an economic activity, and some of us are doing it for passion as much as it gives us income. But considering you want to be a commercial farmer, then economic factor, you should consider that. And we are going to talk about another thing that farmers feel is maybe how to improve your soil. Earlier I mentioned about soil testing. Now we still go to testing the soil, and also how you're going to improve your soil. For instance, most, how will I put it, there are farmers, I said, you planting a certain crop, or you want to plant a certain crop, but you're not sure if it's going to do well with that particular place. First of all, you're always advised to do soil testing and establish what nutrients are there, what you're missing. And a key factor is always check your soil pH. Neutral is always at 7. That's where the most, either 6.5 or 7 or 7.5. That's where it's like basic, supposed to be ranging between 7. Doesn't have to go high or low. Like even if it has to, it's very, we at a particular very small range, the variation, so that it gives you maximum products or yields out of it. And this, I know, pH. When I mention about pH, most of you the first thing that comes into your mind is chemistry. And I know most of you, most people used to hate chemistry, I included, because I never used to like it. But now I have to, because I need to test my soil, check the pH regularly. If it's low, I know how to boost it. If it's high, I know how to reduce it to neutral. And also, this one, when it comes to soil testing, make sure you contact your extension officer every now and then, or any other local agricultural department, for you to have the correct details or information about your soil, so that when you venture into farming, you're not going to get losses, rather you're going to get profits. Are we together? I know the show is flowing. My name is Boss Queen, and this is a Farmers Media. Remember to follow our social media handles at Farmers Media. And this is where young African farmers connect, learn, and grow. Remember to keep it a Farmers Media anytime, all the time. As we move on, and we're going to venture into weed clearing, or rather the management. This is where now how to treat yourself. You go, as I mentioned earlier, you treat yourself. You know how you treat yourself or take care of yourself. This is the same way you need to do to the plants or the crops you're planting in your farm. The first one is you have to clear weeds. Whenever you're dirty, you clean yourself. So the same way, weeds is dirt in terms of crop growing. So you need to always get rid of the weed, or rather the dirt from the crop, so that they do well. So you need to weed your farm as frequent as possible, so that weeds bring about competition. And this competition is competition for nutrients, sunlight, and water. When your crop lacks enough sunlight, lack enough water, and enough nutrients, this means it's not going to give you enough yields or quality yields. So if there's a weed next to it, or weeds grown next to it, you need to get rid of them, so that this crop is going to absorb enough nutrients as possible, so that it's going to give you maximum yields. And this is going to benefit you. So keeping your farm weed free is a plus to you. And there are so many ways of weed control. You can use pesticides. You can decide to weed using a djembe, or else you use organic ways. Like there are some of the products that are organic that are used to kill weeds. So that's what you employ, and it's going to be a plus. The other one, we're going to, you know, types of manure. As I mentioned earlier, some of us like going organic, the other one like going inorganic. Both ways, it's still fine as long as you make sure you're using the right one. Now we're going to talk about the compost manure. And compost, they are so, I remember there's a time back in, was it high school or primary? I don't remember very well, but I remember you once created a compost. You know how you arrange, the way to create it. It's not easy, but it's not hard also if you want to do it. Whereby you take, the organic manure, dry leaves, kitchen veggies, papers like shredded papers, plants, some other plants that are not used, and bit of soil, and then you mix them, and then over time, as time goes, you turn them, turn them until they they are like it's ready to be used, and that's when you take them to the farm. And there are many ways, like many, how will I put it, there are right products to use for preparing a compost heap. We used to call it a compost heap. Yeah. And once the nutrients, there's a right time, you give it a certain period of time until it's well composed, and that's when you apply to the farm. If you apply to the farm when it's not ready, it's going to mess up with your crops, and it's going to inhibit the crop growing process, and you're going to get a loss. So make sure if you're going to use a compost, you take, and then this is where the extension officer comes in. He needs to guide you on how to do it and how to make it and when to use it and where also, so that you don't get a loss. The other one is manure. Manure is just basically animal waste. You put it somewhere, they dry. When they are ready, that's when you use it to your farm. You mix it with soil, and then you plant your crop. And this one, the crops usually absorb them directly because they are always readily available, and it's not expensive. It's not going to cost you anything. You're there, you have your cows, sheep, goat, chicken, whatever you are rearing. Those, they are waste. You collect them somewhere, let them dry, and once they're dried up, you can use it to put it to your farm and mix it to the soil. And when they are ready, that's when you plant. Whenever you plant with it, you'll see a difference of how your crops are going to grow, and how they're going to, the produce, the yields you're going to get afterwards. I always recommend using organic, but only when you use it in a good way, and that includes, the manure, the one you're talking about. It's usually healthy, and organic, team organic all the way, and that's how we do it. It's easy, by the way. I like it, even if it has a lot of process. It takes time to to decompose and release nutrients, but the time it releases nutrients, you're going to love it. You're literally going to like it. The other one is that is the type of manure, and the other one is the normal fertilizer, the inorganic one, the one we go to buy from the shops. You can also add them to your crops whenever you're planting them. But now, when we get to the planting stage and how to plant them, that's when we're going to talk about deep into details about how you're going to apply them, fertilizers. But for now, we're going to get into planting your crops. Now that you have a garden, you prepare your soil and your seeds are ready. It's time to get to, the good stuff, planting your garden. The planting time is the most we talked about, like it really matters when it comes to planting. And when to plant, you'll always have an estimate of when you're going to harvest. So maybe it's a crop that takes 3 months. So we are in July. We are in July today. Actually, today is the 5th of July, and you're like, I'm going to plant a crop that is going to take me 2.5 or 3 months. In the next 3 months, I'll be establishing like July, the August, September. By October, in the start of October, you'll be like, now my crop is ready, or I'm ready to harvest now. So planting time is crucial, and at the same time, your management of the timing of planting will tell you the time of harvesting, so that when I'm planting this at this time, is it worth harvesting this time because of the market demand? I'll tell you to also do the research, so it's very important to you. And as we continue, and how are you going to plant this? Because I've given you different types of layouts of how you're going to lay out your farm. So how are you going to plant the seeds? Most of the seeds are, especially the ones that are not vegetables, you usually have to use a nursery bed. So you have to have a nursery bed, you have a seedling bed, and a seed bed. These are 3 different things. A nursery bed is where you lay the seeds, those tiny seeds, for instance, for vegetables. You plant them in a row, then that's where you take care of them like they are babies. You know how you take care of small babies before they get to kindergarten, as they grow up. That's how you take care of also crops. Now, in a nursery bed, that's where you do watering. You make sure there is shelter. You make sure you give them some space for lighting, like limited space for lighting for some time. Then you cover them, enough water. You make sure you protect it, like you fence the nursery bed so that no intruder or no one is going to come in except yourself, who you're going to be taking care of it. Now, when the nursery is ready and the plants, make sure your nursery, before you prepare the nursery preparation, you have to raise it higher, so that to avoid whenever there is erosion or excess water, so that it doesn't have to clog around. So you have to raise your nursery bed high. And then the other thing, you have to make sure you fence it and have shelter on it, above it, so that the crops, because they're very tiny, they don't get exposed to too much sunlight. Of course, there'll be light, but not that much, not that directly, just a little bit of it for them to grow. Once they are ready for transfer, if they're too much, if you've planted, we come back here to seed bed. The seed bed is where you prepare a piece of land for your seedlings from the nursery bed. So when you have you've planted enough in your seed bed and you still have the others, you plant the remaining seedlings from this nursery bed. You plant them to the seedling bed. Now, the seedling bed is a bed whereby you plant excess seedlings from the nursery bed. Now you transfer them to the seedling bed, and then we have a seed bed. So that's how the three works. Now you have to establish your, you know, what did I say? You have to establish your seed bed. You have to have the three of them: the seed bed, seedling bed, and the nursery bed during planting. So that's how you plan to plant seeds. Now, mostly I think I've exhausted on major things that you need to have when it comes to planting, and we also have this thing we call succession planting. This is whereby you have the garden. As a gardener, you need to plan on the next, what's going to be your next plant, like the next crop you're going to plant in that particular you're going to plant in that particular piece of land. So if this time round I'm planting cabbage, definitely I need to know the next weather season or the next season, what am I going to plant. That's what we call succession planting. Now, it's not really difficult when it comes to vegetables, especially at home. It's going to be easy. Now, this time round, I've planted cabbages. Next time, what do I need? I need kales. That's how you're going to, continuous planting, harvesting, depending on the season. So, it really works well, and it's also going to be a benefit for you and your market also. I told you have to do your own research, and during this we also need to do crop rotation. Yeah, crop rotation is very important. So this means you're rotating your crops. Let's go back to that square garden whereby I told you to divide it into four. If this first lot you're planting maize, the next one you're planting beans, this one you're planting cabbages, the other one you're planting onions. That means you're going to get them round again. Now, the first one you had maize will have beans. The second one you had beans will have cabbages. The other one will have kales. The other one will have the tomatoes. And that's how you're going to revolve around. And that's what you call crop rotation. And it's really important for the sake of nutrients and transferring of, for instance, if you have beans somewhere, beans will keep on fixing nitrogen in every slot you have, and that means you're adding nutrient to that soil, and for the sake of the next crop that will need nitrogen, it's very important. And maintaining the garden, basically, if you're having a garden, maybe a kitchen garden, and you're planting either definitely planting vegetables, these are some of the practices you need to consider. You need to consider watering. Water it regularly, especially early in the morning or late in the evening. You are discouraged from watering your crops during the day. Now, you really need to water it very early in the morning or late in the evening for them to be, to get that enough, water absorption into the soil. You also need to take keen note on pest control, whereby you'll be using the pest control, the pesticides, or the organic way, as we discussed, and also need to control the weed. As we said, as you're going to treat your bed or your garden the same way you do to yourself. So these practices are going to help you, help the crop have maximum yields. So practicing watering and weed control and pest control, and also you're going to add fertilizer for them to absorb nutrients in case the nutrients that you added, using maybe the compost or the manure have not yet been released to the crop, you have to substitute it with fertilizer. And also those are some of the factors or the practices that you need to take. The maintenance, well, taking care of the maintenance of a crop in a plot of land. And then once your seed is, once you've planted, you've come across, like, the process has been planting, maintenance, some of the things you do in that particular piece of land, and now it has grown. The practices you taking care of them as they grow, and now they're mature. It's during harvesting. What type of or method are you going to use in harvesting? Once you harvest your crops, now you have to grade them. This type of grade, I'm going to sell it at this particular place at this particular price. You must consider that also. And this one I'm going to eat, or maybe it depends on how you're going to do it. And this one I'm going to store. You make sure the one you're storing, you check the conditions, the storage conditions, on how you're going to store them, so that they don't run bad or expire, or how you're going to make sure the types of or the method of storage you're going to use are going to make them last long, and they don't run bad. And I think today we've discussed, as I said earlier, on the breakdown I gave on the crop, like production and management. The breakdown I gave, I've given almost, let's say, I've exhausted everything, and what we've remained with is on each. We now on our next show, we're going to tackle on each crop. If it's cabbage, we're going to do it cabbage as a whole. We're going to do carrot as a whole. We're going to do everything as a whole, and that's how you get to learn more. But this one was just a general on how you're going to do it. I think my time is running out, and need to see my way out of studio to pave way for the next show. Remember to catch us live on Farmers Media on our Facebook page, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Farmers Media, and turn on that notification bell so that every time we post, you don't miss out. Every time you're live, make sure you're there, and also drop a comment on how the show was, what your question is, what you'd like us to discuss in our next video or our next show, and what you feel like is affecting farmers out here, or you yourself, the ideas you need to have when you have to, maybe you need to introduce something, or maybe some extension officers you need to contact or appeal. You are right here. We got you covered for all this. Remember, we are proudly sponsored by Sprout. Make sure you visit their page, their website, see what Sprout is doing. Remember, this is a platform for farmers or young farmers, and it's giving you an opportunity to create content for farming and agriculture based, and it's good for you. We're going to drop a link of Sprout right here on our comment section, so that you click and it directs you to their website and learn more about Sprout. That's all for today. See you in the next mid-morning breakfast. That is tomorrow. I've been your host, Boss Queen. Follow our social medias at Farmers Media everywhere, and also don't forget to follow Boss Queen _KE on every social media platform. See you in the next episode. Bye.
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late. or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of this can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes. The heart of
Crops use up nutrients from the soil when growing. Fertilizers are there to help return these nutrients to the soil. They support crops to grow bigger, faster, and produce more food. Crops need different types of fertilizers and nutrients at different stages of growth. For instance, phosphorus, B, helps with early root formation and growth. Nitrogen, N, helps leaf and stem growth. And potassium, K, helps fruits to form and mature. Do a soil test on your shamba, as this will tell you what nutrients your soil has or is lacking, and it will advise on which fertilizer to use for the crops you want to grow. Remember that the benefits of fertilizer will only last for 1 or 2 seasons. So, it's good to add manure to your soil when planting, as this helps boost soil fertility and improve the quality and health of your soil over time, thereby reducing the need for fertilizer. Manure has a mix of nutrients which slowly enter the soil over time.